Hello, everyone. Welcome to a hopefully shorter than usual episode about Superman, episode 8 from 2023, the 18th of August. That is Zero Day, Part 1. Part 1. I am Bob in Cascadia. That is Matt in the Southland. We are part of Uncanny Treks. How are you doing this evening, Matt?
Doing all right, Bob. Man, this Superman show. We're getting some weird stuff. It's gone from like 0 to 100 really, really quick.
Yeah. Although, I mean, they really did set up. They did a lot of work this season to set up this episode. I don't know if it was worth it, but they did a lot of work to set it up.
Yeah, but in the span of 8 episodes, I mean, we've been introduced to Superman, Jimmy, Lois. We've had Superman fall in love with Lois. We've had them be really close together. We've introduced like half of his rogues gallery. I mean, come on, like
it is kind of interesting to think about. I wasn't thinking about this before you said it, but it is interesting to think about. Like, we know this is coming back for season 2. Once the writer's strike and the actor's strike are over, pay your writers, pay your actors. But once it's over, we know it's coming back, and it's like, what is left to do on the personal story side?
yeah, that's what I'm just amazed at. They just pushed the relationship together really quick.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the is Superman gonna go evil thing. Who knows? Is that gonna come to a head next week? Is it just gonna be something that's still lingering at the end of the season? I'm really not sure. I wouldn't predict it one way or the other.
Yeah, they got signed on for a second season so quickly. Like, I'm pretty sure they knew well in advance while they were producing this they were going to have that second season.
Is it also gonna be a thing? And I'm not sure that it will. But is it also going to be a thing where we find out the general is, Sam Lane? Superman is really, really traumatized by whatever, Sam Lane and Amanda Waller get up to with him next episode. He's really hurt that Lois didn't tell him and, her kind of hypocrisy on the secret front. And so they have to kind of repair the relationship in season 2.
Yes, Bob, that's probably what's going to happen. You two could be a scab.
Yeah. So Matt, speaking of weird things, does it bother you that this version of Superman, unlike some others we've seen, needs sleep?
It really did, because I always remember that Superman could just be awake at all times. Like, I always thought that was kind of neat. Like, he's always on call, and he just does the Clark Kent thing to kind of, pretend to be human for a little while.
Yeah.
Feel a little more human.
Yeah, like
he doesn't have to eat. He doesn't have to sleep. There's just all those things that we have to do. He doesn't have to. He's alien. He doesn't need them.
Well, and it's not. I think it's not so much he's alien, so much as he's supercharged by the sun, right? I think like on Krypton, he would still need to eat and sleep. Or
That is correct. Because he's
on
alien
other
here to
worlds.
Earth.
Yes. But I don't know. It's always kind of neat. I get that they're going for a more grounded Superman here in some ways, so that's fine. But yeah, I don't know. I do like the idea that he only sleeps occasionally to relax, not because
Bags under his eyes was interesting. Haven't seen that ever.
Yeah. Also, very, very millennial Superman or Gen Z Superman giving him a caffeine addiction like that.
Yeah, chugging energy drinks and coffee. Way to go.
So, Matt, I assumed that Lois Lane's Vicky Vale hero worship was, just a little something for the hardcore, as a little joke. Were you surprised that she actually showed up in this episode?
Very, very, very surprised. But the design itself, I kind of wish they would have gone for the more classic redhead look from the comics.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Vicky's she's always had red hair.
Yeah.
Or they could have gone even with the whole, like, trying to make it look more like Kim Basinger thing. But no, they kind of went with another League of Lois member is what she kind of looked like to me. Could have done better with the design.
Here's a thought. Do you think the show has been so obsessed with having, like, for lack of a better term, Lois doppelgangers, like the League of Lois from last week or Vicky from this week, because they're unconsciously anxious about this Lois being younger and Asian and the fans rejecting her, so they're giving them other options?
I think you brought this up last episode, and I think you're right. I really do.
Yeah, but like last episode, it felt like they were kind of like they'd kind of guessed that this Lois would, be unpopular with a certain segment of I'll go ahead and say racist fans, and so they were sort of tweaking them about it. But this week with bringing in Vicky, who's, I mean, I don't want to like oversell Vicky's uniqueness in the comics. She's a pretty rare character from what I understand. I haven't read much with her in it. but there's not that much to her in the comics or in Batman 89, but by bringing her in or just having her basically be the stereotypical version of Lois, it's kind of an interesting, I don't know if it's intentional or unconscious, but it's interesting.
I mean, she really is Lois to Bruce, if you think about it.
Yeah,
Totally. It's what it is. But, I mean, Batman doesn't have time for that, so...
I mean, I think that maybe there's potential there, but yeah, I mean, you're right. She was Superman was way more popular than Batman in the 1950s and the 1960s. Hard as it is to believe today. And so, Vicky, Batmite, Batwoman, Batgirl, all just ways to have Batman imitate Superman, right?
Right. So, do you think that Batman might make an appearance, or Bruce Wayne might make an appearance, or get a mention or nod after you saw Vicky?
I'm leaning no, because I don't know how Batman fits in the tone of the show. Like, I just don't...
that's what I want to see, though.
Yeah.
I want to see their take.
No, it's a good question. I don't know. I mean,
and I'm not even saying like have them interact. I just mean like, mention Batman and have him like on a newspaper or something. Just something to show that he's in this world.
Yeah, I mean, they've mentioned Falcone in this episode, and then they mentioned one of his. Yeah, they mentioned. Well, I was going to say they mentioned one of Falcone's associates who's in Metropolis a few episodes back. We noted. I can't remember if there have been any other Batman references. They did reference Green Arrow, and honestly, I could see Green Arrow and Superman having a weird relationship in this. In this show, that might make more sense to me on some level than Superman and Batman.
Yeah, I mean, I do not see them bringing Batman into this for any extended period of time. But I would just be interested to see their anime inspired Batman.
Yeah, that would be interesting. I mean, it's like on the one hand, Batman and Superman's relationship is a really important part of Superman's mythos. But on the other hand, like there is that big, Batman Caped Crusader cartoon, which I assume is also going to come out in the near future. Do you know anything about that?
I haven't heard anything about it. It's been pretty quiet about everything's been about X-Men 97.
Well, we also don't know when that's coming out, right? It was supposed to come out this fall, but we don't have a premiere date, which at this point would suggest probably not, right?
Right, but they're still pumping out, like they're starting to pump out merchandise and things for that. So that's been the big talk, of what's happening there. I've heard nothing about the Batman.
I could also see Caped Crusader and X-Men 97 being things that people want to hold back in case the strikes stretch on, Yeah,
they're gonna want to have content that people are gonna actually tune into.
Yeah. That'll be interesting to see. So I will say the one distinctive characteristic they gave Vicky this episode, I really do enjoy her commitment to annoying Perry. It's good stuff.
Yeah, that is one thing, and I felt like Lois did that though in the comics a lot more. So
yeah.
That's what. Once again, I feel like this was just another version of Lois.
Maybe a little more like shallow and superficial than Lois, but basically Lois.
Yeah.
And then I was also thinking about this because we see a brief return of Flip from the News Kid Legion in this, but the fact that they had to kind of bring in Vicky was interesting just because there's so many reporters on the show cast already. You got Cat Grant, Steve Lombard, and Ronnie Troop, and it was just really interesting that instead of using any of them or the News Kid Legion for this, they bring in Vicky.
Yeah, they wanted that hashtag Batman, Bob.
Well,
and they earned it. Good job. Because Cat Grant, they could have just used Cat Grant, and it would have pretty much done the same thing.
Yeah, it would have been the same thing. Or Ronnie Troop now.
And she didn't have to go to the head editor of the Gotham Gazette. It could have just been whatever. What's the company that they?
Galaxy Broadcasting.
That's all they had to do. So I think that they probably just wanted that Batman reference to make it trend a little bit more.
Having covered, I guess, what I would consider the more interesting parts of the episode, I will say I don't really like what's going on with the rogues here. I dislike this version of the Mist intensely. They basically just make him a dude with invisibility powers. But it is kind of interesting that they're basically using him to drive Superman crazy. That's an interesting use of him. I also can't really say I'm a fan of them turning all the Superman rogues into the Suicide Squad. It just... I don't know. It's just doesn't work for me.
Yeah, let me just say that the Suicide Squad here is not your typical Suicide Squad. It's, would you almost call it like sea level at this point?
Well, I would call it a sea-level Suicide Squad in as much as I think these are mostly bad versions of characters I like. Like I like Silver Banshee, Parasite, and The Mist, and I think these are kind of bootleg versions of them I don't care for. I wouldn't call it sea-level in terms of like, disrespecting those characters in general. Does that make
So if
sense?
you had the actual, if you had well-written versions of the characters designed like their comic book counterparts, you'd probably be more likely to enjoy this version of the Suicide Squad. Whereas what they have here, this technology based weird ass team of young people that don't really have that much character development, it's not as
Yeah.
interesting. Gotcha.
Yeah, it's all very tropey. It's very
Well,
tropey.
I'm going to tell you one thing, Bob, about this particular group, and this is going to go into conspiracy territory
Everybody put on your tinfoil hats to listen to Matt.
because it finally hit me last night.
Hit us.
All right, so this version of the Suicide Squad sucks. I agree with that 100%. All right. But there's one characteristic of this particular group that I have never seen before. They are all flying in the air. Was that not weird to you?
That is weird. I don't mind it, but it is, and I guess it's maybe even necessary to have this many villains fight Superman, but it is an interesting choice.
They have to be able to fly to keep up with him and stuff. That's just all
Yeah.
it is. So, like, even Deathstroke is flying around.
It was also, just to interrupt slightly, sorry, it was very weird, like, how intense the Superman Deathstroke fight earlier in the show was versus how, like, Deathstroke was totally just one of the least important villains in the Suicide Squad. It was just kind of interesting.
Yeah, I didn't even realize he was there until he just kind of just shows up and slashes them. I'm like, oh, Deathstroke's also involved in this fight. Okay, cool. Because I kind of thought he was supposed to be like their leader, right? Like the leader of the team when they're on the field.
That's definitely the vibe you get from the first few episodes of the season, but then he kind of falls off, doesn't he?
Right. So, Bob, why is this flying important? What's the conspiracy theory here? Well, there is a video game that was supposed to release this year called Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. Okay?
I vaguely heard of that, and I do want to say that's a cool title.
It is a pretty cool title. Cool concept, too. I mean, come on. But they showed footage of the game at these conventions and stuff they have, and the feedback they got was so poor that they decided to postpone it until next year. Or really, they postponed it indefinitely, but that usually means at least a year. So, what do you think the main complaint was, Bob?
I don't know, Matt. What was the main complaint about Suicide Squad: Kill the Justice League! Exclamation point.
All of the Suicide Squad members had jet boots and were flying all over the place really, really fast.
Does that really make for poor gameplay?
Well, that's the thing. People want authentic gameplay. If you're going to be Harley Quinn, you want to be Harley Quinn with a fucking mallet, hitting people and doing goofy shit. Not flying around super speed, real fast, first-person shooter type stuff. Maybe if you're Deadshot, yes. Not Captain Boomerang.
I mean, not to be a contrarian, but I sort of feel like, okay, in a regular Suicide Squad game, I get that. In a Suicide Squad game that's about them fighting the Justice League, don't they probably need to be able to fly on the same principle that they sort of need to fly in this one?
Probably, but it just is not fun. You want it to be more authentic. You want it to be more like the characters you're used to. They don't fly, so why are they flying? It's a problem. I'm thinking they're trying to expose us more to Suicide Squad members flying so that we're more accepting of the game. That's my conspiracy theory, Bob.
Okay. I mean, I'm sure there's some synergy going on there. That seems right. I guess another complaint for me to make, though, is just this version of the Parasite Matt. It sucks so bad. Like, is it just me, or does he look like the final Pokemon or like the main villain from Dragon Ball Z, like Vegeta, I think that guy's name is? Did he look like this before and I just chose not to notice it in that earlier episode?
I don't think he did. I think he was more humanoid looking in the previous episode. And here you're right, he turns into this like Mewtwo looking thing that Mewtwo's a Pokemon in case you're wondering.
That's the final Pokemon, right?
I don't know. I don't know enough about
Or at least
actually the
like
name of
I
it.
think like in the initial run was the final Pokemon. I don't know either.
Yeah, but this thing's huge. I mean, this thing's like, it's just stupid looking, and it's just it doesn't fit the Parasite.
Yeah, it's so weird. Like, I know you were speculating about Ivo becoming Metallo or Metal Zero, which also probably would have been bad, but honestly, I find Metallo or Metal Zero to be a pretty generic villain. So I don't think I would have minded it as much. But like, Parasite has a cool gimmick. Why are you messing up Parasite's cool gimmick to turn him into Iron Man?
The only thing I did like about Parasite here is that when Superman would punch him, his body would light up because he's absorbing the energy.
The impact.
That was a cool thing because it felt like he was getting larger, like just slightly larger. They did a good job with that. But I wish it would have been like the original Parasite look and not this new design.
Yeah, yeah. Or again, like I want to, I want to say it's not just that these things aren't comics accurate. Like you can depart from and improve the comics, that's fine, but like they're worse than the comics. Like if you're going to do something different, it needs to not be worse. Is my general rule of thumb, right?
Yeah. My thing too is kind of meet in the middle somewhere, and don't just make it a whole different concept like they have with these technology based villains. Like
maybe if they weren't established DC villains, I would be complaining about there being no established DC villains in the show. Maybe, but I don't know. I still feel like just if you just had Superman fighting these random technology people, that would be fine. Like I don't think I would be offended.
so, Bob, do you think this is going to be a 3-part episode?
I actually know it won't because I looked at the episode titles a while back. I think they may have put them out like shortly after the pilots dropped. But we've got is it 0 Day? That was what this was called. Yeah, we got 0 Day Part 2 coming up, and then the finale is going to be called Hearts of the Father, which that's not a great title, but one can assume big Sam Lane and Jor-El energy, and I mean probably it's effectively going to be a 3-parter, right? It's just going to be like the fallout from the 2-parter.
I could see that. I try to avoid the titles like ahead of time because I don't want to be spoiled.
Interesting. I guess this is another example of I'm sometimes just softer on spoilers than you. Also, it's just my OCD for the podcast. It's like I tend to make like, list of episode titles for me to at least to consult about what we're doing next. So I don't know. I just don't think of that as spoilers, I guess.
That makes sense. I've just seen the titles of episodes spoil things for me before, and it's annoying, but teach us on, I guess.
Were you one of the ones who cracked the mystery of like the Breaking Bad season 2 titles?
No, I never got that deep into it because
All right, so this has been our episode on Superman 2023. I guess at this point we can say we're probably going to finish the damn season.
Yeah, we'll watch the next 2 episodes, guys.
Yeah. So join us for our continuing coverage of the Superman show that we will not call by its name because it's a bad name. I am Bob in Cascadia. That was Matt in the Southland. We are Uncanny Treks. Have a great night, everybody.
Thanks for listening.